the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I am blessed and honored to be here with Scherezade Maestre, EMEA immigration specialist. Hey, Sherry, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Ben?
I am fantastic. It's a wonderful Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday. It's a wonderful Wednesday. Super stoked to be here with you. We're going to be talking about LGBTQIA plus issues, immigration, otherwise things that we need to consider when moving people around the globe. It's Pride Week here on Love and Relo, so it means we always have important, fun, interesting topics to share with people. Usually the audience gets really involved. So audience, if you're out there, hit that like button right now. Put a comment in the comments. Send some love out to Sherry and myself. I always use some love. Sherry, where in the world are you right now? Cool. Is that me or is that you?
So I'm in London. It's 9 p.m. and it's surprisingly hot for being London.
It's hot in London. Well, let me tell you what hot looks like in Dallas, Texas. It's got to be 100 degrees here. Hey, let me know where in the world everyone is out there. So if you're watching right now, throw it in the comments. I want to know where in the world you are. Give your company a shout out. Give Sherry a shout out. Let me know if you are out there. This is awesome. We got Drew Phillips checking in. Hey, Love and Relo fam. Hope all are well. Good afternoon from the Bay Area. Big love. There you go. That's the kind of love I'm talking about. Big love. Hit that heart button. Let us know here. This is, look at dad. My dad's checking in. Dan in Tulsa. What's up, Dad? I love you, man. Oh gosh, I just want to give my dad a hug. Happy Father's Day, belated Father's Day to all the dads out there. Happy Juneteenth to everybody out there as well. Hope everybody got to celebrate that over the weekend. Sherry, let's talk a little bit about LGBTQIA plus issues as it pertains to international mobility. Let's talk about some of the general and legal issues out there. What do we need to be thinking about?
Yeah, so I mean, what we can talk about this for hours because it's just like my favorite topic ever. So we do international mobility. I do mostly immigration. Most of the listeners to the show do different areas of mobility, from relo, taxes, social security, whatever it is. And we know that it's complex and exhausting for everyone. But I really want to shine some light on how this is even more difficult, more exhausting, more tiring, problematic, and all of the not very positive words that you can think about for LGBTQA plus individuals. And just to mention, I may say LGBTQA plus or LGBTQ, just not to keep repeating it, but I mentioned the whole spectrum from everyone, including sexual orientation to gender identities. It's a real pain. Very, very difficult for LGBTQA plus individuals. And I think that it's amazing that we're talking about this today, and especially because it's Pride Week for Love and Relo, but Pride Month everyone in the world, right? Yeah, because I keep hearing why we still need Pride. Is this relevant? Aren't you guys already have a lot
of
rights?
Is that a real debate?
Fine, and your family is the same, right?
Are people saying that we don't need Pride Month? I mean, I that seems aggressive to me.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the country, and there is some positives and some negatives associated with Pride. But there are still a lot of people saying that now that, for example, I live in the UK and I'm originally Spanish, and in both these countries we have marriage equality, we have recognition of children, etc. But hey, there are still a lot of things to be done, and I just want to scare everyone a bit with some horrifying statistics that I think that are actually very, very important to start this conversation on. Why is it difficult to actually move LGBT people to other countries or other regions, which is what we all do, right?
Scare us.
So just to scare you all, so I checked yesterday some relevant legal statistics, and there are still 71 countries that criminalize same-sex relationships, and 43 that do it for female same-sex relationships. And just to let that sink in for a moment, this means that 1/3 of the countries of the world for males and 1/4 for females find it dangerous to have a non-heteronormative sexual orientation or relationship. That's like crazy numbers.
That
and
is
if
crazy
you're
numbers.
thinking about sending someone or moving there as an LGBT person, well, basically it's illegal. It can entail imprisonment and in many occasions abuse. And actually in 11 of them, there's still the death penalty. So if you're gay, lesbian, bisexual, you can die, like legally speaking, right? Like,
can we just pause right there here?
I mean,
and I just want to check in with everybody around that. I wanted you to all hear that. And I want to underscore what Sherry just said there. 1/3 of countries in the world criminalize non-heteronormative relationships for men, and 1/4 of the countries of the world criminalize non-heteronormative relationships for women. That is incredible. 11 have the death penalty. So when we talk about duty of care and we talk about, okay, is this a safe neighborhood to put expats in, or is this temp housing, or is this, we talk about things like that. I mean, to talk about the death penalty, in certain countries because of your orientation, and here we are in 2022, to me is just jaw-dropping. I appreciate you bringing that stat to the forefront. As scary as that stat is, hit that like button out there if you didn't know that stat, because I didn't know that stat. Like seems like the wrong button to hit, but find another button. Find a button that mirrors how you feel about that. People are checking in right now. I want to know where in the world you are and what your exposure is there. I think we have a little bit of an internet glitch there and lag there going on. Yeah, but that's okay because it's it's across the pond. It's Tim from Bergen checking in here. Look at this. We got Debbie. Look at this. Very good. We're gonna see if we don't have Sherry back here. I think we got her back.
All right.
Sherry, you back?
Yeah,
there you are.
My internet got scared as well.
No, you're good. You're back on the line. I think there's a better connection. We got Roland checking in. Global Mobility Partners in Mexico City. Mexico's in the house. Whatever country Bergen's in is in the house. This is great. We got Oklahoma in the house as well. My dad says in Oklahoma we use LGBTQ2SI plus 2S.
Hey, I didn't know about that one. Never heard about it.
Native American concept. Two-spirit natives normally do not have a problem. Wow, interesting. We got Brazil in the house. Scherezade.
Hi, Jana.
Look at Jana checking in here. And then look, my dad says outing someone could mean death. Wow. Yeah. Actually, yeah. And it's not only that, it's just that if you check the list of the 11 countries that have the death penalty, the majority of global corporations in the world have entities in at least a few of them. So it's possible that we're just like assisting someone that has to go there or gets an offer to go there, a good opportunity, right? And we need to check those things for them. We need to make the information available. But I don't want to focus only on sexual orientation, because within the LGBTQIA+, there's also gender identity, and there is also 15 countries that criminalize that in the world. We got people asking questions here, so let's get to the folks here with questions. If you've got questions, put them in the comments here, and we will get to those. Drew Phillips says, "I wish people understood criminalization of these relationships is real." Yes, now we're understanding, right? And now we can all tell people. Roland is saying, which specific regions of the world? Can you help us with that, Sherry?
I can definitely help with that, because we normally think that, these are just backward societies with a lack of respect for human rights. These things don't happen in the countries we live in, etc. And we can agree that some of them are in, for example, Middle Eastern countries, some African countries. But hey, I live in Europe, and there are in total, there are only 31 countries that have more or less same rights for LGBTQIA+. But in Europe, where like the European Union exists and we technically have all of these rights, there are 6 countries that do not recognize marriage or civil partnerships. They do not recognize LGBTQIA families, so their children are not children when we go to those countries. Their couples are not couples. We are all individuals separately. In Poland, it's mostly Poland, Romania, and Bulgaria. There have even been a lot of cases in court because they consider that children are not your children, they're orphans, or your partner cannot rent a flat with you because that's immoral, etc. So specific regions of the world, well, sadly everywhere, to be honest. Like, Ben, you didn't know that, right?
No, well, you
were
said
so
Poland,
excited with your
Romania. I mean,
Bulgaria,
so you're saying
Bulgaria, it's Latvia, Lithuania.
Latvia,
There's a lot.
Lithuania. So and you're saying with the kids, this is super interesting to me and really sad. So you're saying if expats move to one of these countries you just named with children, are their children in danger at that point?
Well, they normally wouldn't be able to go as their children, right? So what happens is, let's imagine that you have someone that wants to go to Poland, for example. They will not recognize the civil partnership or marriage, so they will not consider that my partner is my dependent. I will have to go on my own and she will have to go on her own, which means no financial benefits in the sense of taxation, social security, my health insurance. She cannot, if I'm non-EU national, like let's say that I'm American, she wouldn't be able to get a dependent visa. So no immigration process.
She couldn't even get a visa anyway then to go with you, right? I mean, you get
she would need, she would need to get her own job, her own visa, nothing in relation to me. If we go to the authorities with a birth certificate with 2 mothers, they normally just reject it and they either give a visa to one of the parents, or in some European countries that I know about, they would just say that the kid is an orphan and they wouldn't give you anything because they just don't they get the certificate and they're like, well, yeah, we don't accept that. So it's one or none.
So then that means if a same-sex couple entered into Poland, even with 2 different visas, right? Say they went and got their own job, their own visa, right? But they had children together.
Yeah.
Would those children be not allowed in, or would they just be considered children of one person, or could they be taken by the state? Okay.
What normally, I mean, I've seen some, I do LGBTQIA plus activism, and I've seen some cases of people actually suing governments in Europe because they were saying that the kids are orphaned. But in general, in most of the occasions, they just put them with one parent. Okay. But hey, there are a lot of limitations and repercussions of doing that. Because, for example, let's say that they put my kid, the kid under my name and not my partner. If I have any kind of accident or I end up in the hospital or I cannot take care of the kid for any reason, they can actually take it until I don't know, my parents come to pick it up, right?
Because they'd have no guardian. They'd have no legal guardian.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
They don't consider my partner someone that could go and take care of her own kid. And this keeps happening. So these things we need to really, really look at. And there's actually a lot of things that we can do in terms of global mobility specialists looking at those things. But I think that the most important thing that we all need to look at is the safety, psychological implications of actually sending people to one of these countries. Because also I think we cannot assume that everyone knows these things. So let's say, I don't know, you get a colleague and he gets offered a job in X country. If he doesn't work in global mobility, he hasn't spoken with, I don't know, an immigration advisor, a tax advisor, he may not have any clue really that he cannot go with his family or with his partner, or, they may just not know all of the implications, especially because Europe, for example, is not seen as that. Certain countries are not seen as that. And then you end up with surprises. Same in certain South American countries, whilst others are amazing, right?
Well, and that's what we got here. We got some comments coming in. I want to honor these comments as well. Put your comments in here. I want to hear from you out there. If you're watching right now, hit that like button. Let everybody know that we are having this important conversation right now about immigration from an EMEA standpoint, but also from a global standpoint, and as it pertains to LGBTQ rights and issues. Let's see. Jana says Brazil is one of the countries that kills more LGBTQA plus daily, and here it is not a crime. Jana, are you saying it's not a crime? Violence
it's
against?
not.
How is
But
that?
no, it's
I don't.
I guess it's not a crime to be I think it's not a crime to be LGBTQIA plus in Brazil, but
Okay.
I send you some like I've just mentioned some data on, yeah, it's illegal to be gay in X amount of countries, but we also need to remember that even when not criminalized, that doesn't mean that the country is super welcoming of LGBTQIA plus individuals and you can go with a t-shirt with a rainbow flag on streets, right? Like, people are facing discrimination, social aggression. There is a lack of rights in certain places. So it's important to also acknowledge that the social norms are not really expressed in the legal system always. And I have an example. I know that the majority of the people listening is from the US, but there are certain regions, it's normally far away from major urban centers, to be honest, so not in the cities, but there are places in the US where same-sex couples are not practically welcome. Like, there is aggressions, there are issues, and certain relocation companies advise that this is a problem. If you actually want to go there, it may not be safe for you to rent in that place, right?
You know,
Which
that's
is
really, I mean,
terribly
that's really
sad.
interesting, because I think of the US as being fairly progressive in this area, but you're right. I mean, it's not a monolith, right? There's pockets where it's a lot, things are a lot more accepting, welcoming. There's a lot more community there. And then there's pockets where you might feel all alone and feel, like it's dangerous. I'd love to know what people think about what about your part of the world? Is it safe for LGBTQIA plus folks to come from another country into your part of the world? What are your thoughts? What is your guidance? What do you do when you have assignees? MENA elsewhere, yes. Middle East, some parts of Africa, yes, can be dangerous. We got Louise Neal checking in from Chelmsford, UK. What's up? Look at we got a diverse group here. We got a lot of countries here.
Yeah, that's
checking
quite
in
close
here.
to me.
Yes, interested in the EMEA immigration topic. Very cool, Louise. Awesome. Somebody's asking, how are we verifying this information? Where can people get this information and verify what if it's
What the
it's
legal
safe,
requirements
what the
are.
legal requirements are? Yeah.
Okay, so there is a lot of NGOs that basically do research on where is it legal, where is it criminalized, the different problems that there are. But then other things like, is this city safe for LGBT? Well, I mean, you can check the statistics on crimes, etc. But I think that when we get to very, very specific questions or regions or areas, and it's not like, it's not the law, it's more like what's actually happening there to people.
Yes.
We just need to trust our professionals. And that's why I think that it's very, very important that global mobility professionals like us actually talk about these things, because I do not think that these matters are being talked about in the workplace or in providers as openly as other matters, right? Like, for example, race and ethnicity are, but this is not. I mean, Ben, I don't know if you agree with me on that, but I don't think that we just come to the office and we talk about sexual orientation.
I think race and ethnicity was kind of taboo, but sexual orientation is definitely taboo. And here's why I go. How many of us have heard the saying, there's three things you don't talk about? Three things you don't talk about are sex, religion, and politics. Right? There's I think it's three things you don't talk about at a dinner party, or maybe it's three things you don't talk about at a job, or maybe it's just three things you never talk about. But that's like a saying that I was brought up with, right? There's three things you don't talk about, right? And that's one of the three. And race isn't in there, and socioeconomic status isn't in there.
But we don't agree. We cannot agree on, it's not that we're talking about sex, but we need to talk about our relationships. We need to talk about who my family is, with whom I live. And, if I'm adopting a kid or having a kid, or so, like I have friends that are doing surrogacy, we need to talk about those things, especially if we're going to move people. Because
Yes.
if we just think, oh, this is a taboo, and I cannot ask anyone about their sexual orientation. Oh my God, of course not. You're not going to go and say, hey, I'm sorry, but do you consider yourself a lesbian because I'm going to help you for your global mobility process? You don't have to do that. It's just like, you just have to make the information available, or you can ask the question, right? You can ask, what's the gender of your partner? What's like anything, your marital status, and then ask for the gender of the person. Ask for if you were born with the same gender you identify right now, etc. And if you do those things, then you know the kind of information that this person may find useful, right? Because I think that how are we gonna know what these people, like, what everyone needs to know from that matter? Like, I don't know.
And it's sensitive because these things have been used to discriminate against people for so long, right? And we're even describing a world where certain parts of the world still do discriminate against people and even kill them for these types of, this types of information. And even when countries are safe, there's still parts of them, like pockets, neighborhoods, communities, where you're still not safe, right? And so when you're talking to someone you never met in an organization, like, the HR manager, right, who you think is on your side, but we also know HR is not really on your side. They're protecting the company. But anyway, that's a whole nother conversation, and it's like, so then how do you blindly trust, especially if you've grown up? Maybe you were bullied or beat up or persecuted or made fun of for your, and so you're just, that's why coming out is hard, right? Because it's just, there's so much trauma around revealing these details. I don't blame people for trying to obscure them, but then they find themselves in situations where they've accepted an assignment and they're like, all right, I'm kind of like, maybe I'm not even out, or maybe I'm like kind of, not really, disclosing on a need to know basis. And then I get over there and I'm like, whoa, hold on, this isn't, what I thought it was going to be, or, oh wait, what do you mean I can't bring my partner? And it's just really hard. And I don't know the answer, but I guess I want to ask people that are watching who are in global mobility, how do you suss out this information and create safe spaces to have these conversations? I want to hear from people out there. Sherry, we're going to hear from your experiences as well. We have people who are coming in here and giving ideas here. Natalie Marshall, what's up, Natalie Marshall Rose? It will be important to have a pre-assignment discussion with the employee. That is important to set the expectations up front. But how do you have it, Natalie, in a way where they're comfortable disclosing?
But I think that we can actually be even before the pre-assessment. So, for example, let's say that you work in a global immigration provider, or you work for a company and you're responsible for like gathering all these kinds of information. You can make that information available to your client, to your company, before anyone accepts any assignment, and just make it available there for anyone that may be interested in an assignment to that country to check, like, main red flags. What are the concerns? Any like problems with race, ethnicity, LGBTQI, whatever it is. So the person does not really feel that they need to disclose it. They just go there, check it, and then if they get offered something they don't feel comfortable with, they can just, reject it without having to go through that. And then definitely pre-assessment discussion. But Ben, I don't really think, like, so do you feel that people will still not feel comfortable if they know that you're there to help them in the process? Because you're actually helping them, right?
I mean, you are, what we're talking about is a global mobility, manager or HR person who is actively, practicing allyship, and who's being there for them, and who's trying to, watch out for any pitfalls or help them and guide them. But how do they know? How do they know? And it's like, when I was just thinking, about before, you're like, yeah, but we can get that information before. And it's like, well, at what point is it appropriate to get that information? Is this something in the future that we're going to start seeing on job applications, the way that we see, race and ethnicity asked for on job applications? Because of, at least in the United States, there's I don't know if this is part of affirmative action or what it is, but there's things that kind of measure the demographics of people who are hired, right? And you're starting to see kind of, gendering kind of asked. I mean, is orientation something that becomes asked as well, as we seek to achieve a workforce that is equitable and inclusive for all and diverse, right? I wonder, is it something that just is in their file, so that, and even as I'm saying that, it sounds weird, and it sounds, well, I don't know about that, because it's like, well, why don't you know about that? Well, because bad actors, and it could go wrong. It's like, it's a slippery slope, it feels like to me.
But you're not really asking anyone to, by providing the information beforehand, you're not really asking anyone to get out of the closet, right? But if you really think about it, once you have the assignment, let's say they move ahead without any info or whatever, if they have dependents, you're going to hear about it, because they're going to have to tell you at some point, so you can assist with the visa, the social security, and all of the other matters. Yeah. So if they're going to know at some point, maybe it's just better to get some kind of info. And I know that certain providers do that, they have red flags, and they can provide them to companies, or they can provide them to their assignees, or they consider it in the questionnaires. It's just that it's not, I think they just follow a very very strict script of, these are the things that I'm going to mention. And I'm just when I see that you're LGBT, I'm just going to react totally cool, because we actually think that it's good that for people it's exactly the same if I have a wife or a husband, right? That's amazing. But for certain things, it's not the same. And I need to know, I need the help. I need you to tell me, is my partner going to get a visa? Am I going to be able to travel with my family? Can we do joint taxes, or will we have to pay thousands of pounds more? Anything can she be on my health insurance? And I've actually moved around quite well, only in Europe, so not that much. But I've gone through this. I've moved to Belgium, and actually in my global mobility relocation program, this was not included. So my partner was not recognized, because we were not formally married. So no civil partnerships, no cohabitation, nothing. She could not be in my health insurance. Her expenses were not paid. And you feel that, you're like, why is this happening in the 21st century? And then when I moved after that with another relocation program, and it included all of those things, and they were like, yeah, of course, everything is included. I don't care if you're not married. I don't care if she is female or male. I don't have any problems with any of that. You can put her into your benefits. You can do whatever you want. You feel so much more appreciated as a human being. Right. And you also feel like, I was so much more motivated to work for the other company after they've really shared these things with me, right? It just feels different. And I basically, for example, when I moved to Belgium, I discovered all of that after accepting the job, after getting all of the info. And that's where I started to realize the problems. And I know it's I could do the immigration process myself. I could do stuff myself because I work on these, but not everyone can. People are going to feel lost. People are going to feel that they're treated as second-class employees or second-class citizens. And those things really affect the morale of people. We, as global mobility professionals, we cannot live with treating people like that. It's well, apart from discriminatory, it's just not nice. It's really, really bad. And I'm not sure if anyone that is listening to us has gone through that and has the experience that I had, but let's
see. Let's see. Has anybody had any firsthand experiences that they want to share, or any thing they've had in the workforce here that they want to share? Let's see here. We got people who are chiming in here. Rob Zeitz is saying legal systems can and do treat people differently, even if the laws on the books look relatively fair. Right. So it may not be illegal, but the way it's administered, whether it be immigration, whether it be customs, whether it be, border, or, in our case, border patrol, whether it be, whether it be the police, locally, or just in your community, right? The schools and the things like that. And Natalie's saying, agreed, understanding the cultural norms is crucial. Yes. Roland saying the big, go ahead.
Actually, from that, understanding the cultural norms is crucial. I think that's something that we really need to work on, and not many, I have some Relo friends that really mentioned that they do this and that this is very important, but I think it's only done for very senior people, which is cultural training, cross-cultural training, better said. cross-cultural training is super needed for everyone moving to another country, but that's especially efficient and useful for LGBTQIA plus employees or people moving. And why is that? It's because, yeah, it's the cultural norms. So you may think that what you're used to is normal, that you won't have any problems because, again, the law doesn't say that it's illegal that you do A, B, or C. And then you go somewhere and you hold hands or you do things that are standard for you, and you do have a problem with that. And one example that has gone very, very hardcore lately is Russia. So in Russia, they started to have a lot of aggressions for, like, because apparently the cultural norms change, which probably is like a lot of politics involved as well. But now it went from this is not very well regarded to actually there is a legislation against propaganda of non-traditional sexual relationships, which means that if I'm holding the hand of my partner in the street, I can go to prison for 15 days. And that's it.
What?
And that not only affects people that move to live there, but also people that are on business trips, right? Like, what happens, Ben, if you go on a business trip and no one told you that, and then you're just like taking a picture and ending up in prison? And this happens. It's crazy, but it happens.
Dang, I hold a lot of people's hands. I don't even know what to do with that information, to be honest with you. It scares the heck out of me, to be honest with you. It's like, yeah,
even
no, that's
hacks, like,
yeah.
Oh
my gosh. Okay, let's see. We got people. Natalie sharing a story. She says, "I handled
like if
a
you have
case."
a male friend in Russia,
Yeah.
it may.
Sorry, we got. I think we got just a little delay. Yes, I need to watch those Russian friends. Natalie saying, "I handled a case years ago with employees going to Mexico and had an unmarried same-sex partner. The process would have been easier if they got married instead of being unmarried." Interesting. Yeah, it's interesting that we use marriage as kind of this, like,
I mean,
this line.
that happens.
I think there's a little bit of a delay.
Ben, not
Yeah,
sure if I'm losing you.
yeah, there's a little bit of a delay.
But
But it's interesting that we
that
use marriage
happens,
as this
right? Like,
line. And I know that you were saying, earlier about kind of, your experience going, unmarried and then getting health insurance for both. And that was great. And that felt so good as an employee to be kind of seen and to be validated and just recognized, and we had someone on yesterday who was in a polyamorous relationship, where, their marriage is, or their relationship is not recognized as marriage, their partnership. And, but yet, I mean, it would make sense that health insurance would be extended to all. But then, I also understand as an employer myself too, that line of marriage, designates a certain level of commitment and formalized relationship. Because, theoretically, I mean, you could have roommates that you're not in a relationship on your health insurance. It's tricky. I don't, it's not an easy thing. And I think that policies, when we look at, mobility policies and benefit policies, and we use policies because they help us make decisions. But I think that policies are tricky because it's almost like you have to really know the person and the talent and the employee and what their situation is in order to give them the benefits that really suit them. And it's just so unique and so tailored to their situation. That's kind of my takeaway right now. And I don't know how you administer that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, but for example, I understand, and I hope you can hear me properly now, but I understand that unmarried partners do not have the same benefits or visa advantages as married partners, right? Because that happens also with heterosexual.
Oh, we had a little hiccup there with the internet here. Let's see. Menace saying one of the other things you don't talk about is sports. That's funny. Yeah, that's one of the other taboos. Oh, Sherry's back.
My internet doesn't really want to hear me, so I was.
You're being censored. No, we won't be stopped.
It's Russia, probably. sorry. I was mentioning that I understand that unmarried partners may not have the same rights in terms of immigration or social security or whatever it is. It's the same for straight, like heterosexual couples, right? But the problem is when you're actually married and then you go somewhere and you're, boom, suddenly not married. Like, who are you, right? Like, who's this person? Why don't they have any rights? What can we do with them? And I mean, there is also a lot of other limitations that we haven't mentioned. I mean, I'm an immigration lawyer, so I'm obviously like, I could talk about the visas all the time. And also I want to mention in a bit about the things we can actually do, because it's not all negative, but other limitations are not related to immigration. What happens with lack of health insurance rights? What happens with access to public schooling? With difficulties in renting property as a partner, like as with a partner, because some countries do not allow you to live with people that you're not really related to, or it's just crazy. But they're like, no, this is a one bed. You cannot rent it with your friend. And your friend is not your friend. Your friend is your wife or your husband or whatever it is. And they just don't consider it. And companies actually managing all the relo matters know about this, and they just maybe don't know how to address it. And that's why, again, we need to talk about it. But Ben, maybe if you agree, and I'm not sure if we want to take this to a more positive side, but we can also talk about the cool things that we can do about it, right?
Yeah, I would love to go to solutions, because it is easy to get mired in the problems and to kind of get down about that. But I love that idea. Let's go to the positives. What can we do about it?
Okay, so things we can do about it. As we've mentioned before, we can have access to all of the information. We can make it available for anyone that is applying or considering, for example, an internal assignment or relocation, or that we see that the person is based in country A and they're going to country B. And we can send the cross-cultural training, we can send guidance, we can send information on visas, we can send the list of who is considered a dependent on that country for the person to actually already make a decision. Maybe in the pre-assessment, maybe before or even after in a call with you, because I think that we must remember that at the end of the day, this is a personal decision, right? Like moving somewhere is a personal decision. If I want to be in the closet or out of the closet, it's a personal decision. If, for example, I think that this job is really, really interesting and it will like really be amazing for my career and I need to do it, it may be that some people decide, for example, that I want to take this job, but I want to come back for 1 week per month to see my family, and my family stays in the home country. People do that. So my point is, we cannot just assume that, oh, you're LGBTQIA plus, you're not going to want to go, you're not going to want to go there, you cannot go there. No, there are options. So maybe the companies or the global mobility people can offer options like, well, you can go, and then come back, right? Like offer some kind of money to travel more. Other options, your partner may not be considered a dependent. Let's say you don't have children, right? But we can find other ways of actually bringing you there. The only moment in which I would not recommend that is if it's actually dangerous, like you're going to a country with the death penalty, or you can end up in jail, right? Because then maybe not. But otherwise, why not get in short-term visas as a tourist for your partner? They may not be able to move permanently there, but they can go for a few months. They can, stay for a bit. What happens with, for example, suggesting that if they do not want to work, for example, or they have like some kind of remote work that allows them to work from home without taxation problems, they can enroll in an institute, like educational institution, and get a student permit, study permit for a year. They can go with you.
Sure.
There are a lot of options. So if you see that really someone wants to move there, we can look at other legal options for them to move safely. But I think that they need to know first the limitations, the things that are dangerous. But we can still do it. We can still find ways. And I'm not sure if, do you feel that people think about those things, or would you say this is the way?
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to be like a same conversation. Here's the problems, here's the solutions. Now, here's the problems. Take that home, sit with that for a couple of days, come back to me and like ask some tough questions. Well, what can we do? Like, it really has to be, I think, if the company is the one pushing the information to the employee, they need to push it almost simultaneously. They need to be, and that's kind of also knowing, and this goes to Natalie's comment here. The initial call is so important to gather the information about circumstances before presenting information, right? To know if it's going to be a problem or not, and then bringing solutions to it, because you might assume you may not know what their situation is, and so then you just say, oh, here's a pamphlet about do's and don'ts in Poland. Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions. And it's like, oh crap, did you know if we go over there, this cabin, then you get on then you Google it and you're like, oh my God,
yeah, you
that's
panic
scary.
even more.
And then by then you're like, you know what, we decided we're not going to take the assignment. And they didn't even, it may not even tell you what the issue is, right? So it's kind of an interesting thing where we do have to ask that fact finding, and I think we do have to be super skilled. And this is just another hat the global mobility people have to wear. I mean, so many hats. That's why I always say global mobility people, in my opinion, are the most skilled people, have the most skill sets within the HR function, because you have to know so many things. I mean, not only do you have to be an immigration specialist, a logistician, a policy person, but you also have to be somewhat of a social worker and understand what people's situations and their family structures and all this stuff is going on in order to be proactive, and then go to your immigration provider, who hopefully is a strategic thought partner, and not just like, here's the visa application, not just like that, but they're actually going to sit there with you and, like, to your point, Sherry, give you all these ideas and be proactive. Fortunately, I see a lot of immigration partners who are like that. And, like Natalie's over here chiming in, and, our friend Justin Parsons is a friend of the show from Erickson Immigration Group. I mean, there's some really good ones out there. So, and it sounds like, you have some really good ones you work with too. But, what is what is that? What do you look for, in how do you find that immigration partner that's going to be creative?
Yeah, that's the problem, right? That I mean, you can find amazing immigration experts, lawyers, but it's very, very difficult until you have a situation that has LGBTQIA plus people to really see what they're doing, and if what they're doing is really relevant for the case. So I think that we, like, from a company perspective or from a global mobility perspective, we also need to own what's happening and own up to which level of information we want. And then we can speak, for example, if you're in-house, you can go and speak with your immigration provider and tell them, like, actually, I need you to address these things in a certain way, and give them a clear light on it. I think that we need to speak more about it so they find ways to do it, basically, if that makes sense.
No, I mean, totally. And that I think is being echoed here as well. And Mena's from the Middle East. She says this should be informed from the beginning. And the Middle East and Africa region is not developed to accept the diversity. Mena, what do you do in that situation? I mean, how do you work around that? Is it a non-starter, or is there opportunities? I mean, what are your thoughts there? Mena saying customized mobility policies. Yeah, for sure. If your company's into that kind of thing, I mean, that's another thing, right? Do we lose Sherry? Let's see here. Sherry, you back? There you go. What are your thoughts here about policy?
Yeah, I would really like to know if. Yeah, I actually wanted to ask people if their internal policies.
Yeah, I think what Sherry wants to say too is, like, are they flexible, right? Are your policies flexible? Do they allow for interpretation? The Russians are getting you, Sherry. Sherry, you back?
I don't know, worst internet of the day. This is what happens when you try to do productive things after 9 p.m. I heard your question about policies, and I actually wanted to ask everyone in the audience if actually if they work in-house or in a provider, any kind of global mobility provider, if their internal policies openly address diversity in sexual orientation or gender. Because I'm not sure if this is standard, right? Like I have my experience as an activist and I know what I do or what I've done with teams, but I'm not really sure if this is common. Like, are we addressing this? Are we looking into policies? We need policies, but
let's
we need to
ask
put them in
everybody.
practice.
Do the global mobility policies that you either work with and administer or that you've seen in the past, do they all include, orientation and what types of kind of diverse and different family structures? I mean, are they inclusive? Or do you think we have some work to do out there? I'd love to know. And maybe you don't have to talk about your companies, right? Because I mean, we don't want to get anybody in trouble here. But do you believe mobility policies today in 2022 are inclusive and flexible to meet the needs of all families? Or do you think we have work to do?
In general, from what I've seen in general life, spoken with colleagues, spoken a lot with LGBTQIA activists that work in this region, like in this area, and in this region in EMEA, we have a lot of work to do because we have a lot of work to do from a societal perspective. Like, if we don't talk about this in general, we don't talk about this in the workplace, and then much else we talk about this in global mobility because we're like just one really big, like small stage of the whole big picture, right? So if there are problems, like we just need to talk about this everywhere. And then once we do that, we will be able to include it in our policies. I think that there have been a lot of important additions in terms of policies, but I don't think it's enough, basically.
Yeah. I think I would agree with you, right? Yes, there's progress. Is it enough? Probably not. Probably never. I mean, that's the thing about inclusion, right? Can people ever feel totally comfortable or comfortable enough? Can people be too comfortable? Maybe they can. I don't know. Roland saying yes, he does feel like they're inclusive. Okay, awesome. That's good to know. We got Canada checking in. Hit that like button.
He does feel that they're inclusive.
Yes. It looks like it. Roland, if we're getting you wrong, let us know as well. My dad's checking in here and says safe space protocols need to be across the board, not just for certain people. Otherwise, the safe space can actually out a person. Interesting. So the way that we apply safe spaces and protocols like this and inclusivity needs to be applied equally in order to not alienate people. What are your thoughts on that application, Sherry? The application of safety protocols like that. Sherry, am I losing you?
Ben?
Yep. Sherry, you there?
Yeah, I'm there. I just cannot hear you now.
Oh, okay. Well, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes. Not sure what
All
happened.
Right. So what do you think about this comment?
Safe space protocols. I do agree. But I would like to mention that it's not the same. I mean, we have safe, like they are available for everyone. We don't have them only for LGBTQIA plus people, right? We have them for different races, ethnicities, all kinds of families, no discrimination, people with disabilities. So that's needed, but it does not mean that it's affecting everyone on the same level. And that's something that we need to consider, right? Because being diverse is great, and having policies that include everyone is important, but we need to be inclusive in a clever way. For actually ensuring that we are being inclusive, we need to find what is really difficult in people's lives. In this case, what is difficult in people moving from one country to the other, and finding ways to fix it. So I totally agree that we should not look at LGBTQIA plus people in a solo, like ignoring everything else, but they have specific circumstances that we need to address, same as we may need to address people with disabilities moving on relocation, or people with, I don't know, like children who may not be able to travel as much or have short-term assignments in the same way, right? So I do agree, but I do not think that it's it's a negative thing to just include it, or to have like different categories in a way, so you can really be inclusive and ensure that people are getting what they need. Not sure if that's
No,
like
I think this is an important distinction to make. And I remember in my my career, early in my career, I thought that treating everyone the same was good, right? I mean, equality is what you're looking for. But what I learned is that you have to treat people the way they want to be treated. You have to give them what they need. You don't give everybody the same. You give people what they need. And you try to be as responsive and inclusive as you can. And that's more tricky to accomplish, but I think it's truly in the spirit of inclusiveness instead of kind of in the by the letter of the law or by the policy.
It's more like ensuring that you're giving equity instead of equality. And also, and I mean, we could have another conversation about this, but we could also look at intersectionality and how all of the things that we've mentioned, they can either be worse if you have a certain race or ethnicity, a certain disability, if you're neurodiverse. So it just gets even more complicated and you have to consider more things.
And you know what? And I found it interesting. I mean, typically intersectionality applies to like if you're gay and black, for instance, right? But I found it interesting. The original first data point you shared was that in 1/3 of countries, it's criminal to be a gay man or a LGBTQ plus man than it is to be, or was it in a relationship? I guess maybe it was in a relationship.
No, it's just actually having any kind of expression of homosexual behavior, for example.
So it was criminalized. Yeah, so it was criminalized at a higher rate for men than it was for women. And and we never even talked about why that is, or I mean, I'd never heard that before. It's kind of surprising, and yet it's kind of not, maybe. So
I mean, I'm not an expert on this particular topic, so if anyone knows more, please share. But it's generally regarded worse for male, also because of evolution of religions and cultural norms, than it is for women, especially if women do these things, but then they are married and have children anyway. So in historical terms, that has been the case, that women, like, I mean, if you want to be a lesbian in your free time, it's fine as long as you have children and have a husband somewhere. Like, for real. This is a
on
thing.
Your free time. If you want to, it's like a hobby. On your free time, you can do this. But men can't do this on their free time. They have to always be heteronormative.
Yes, exactly. Because you should, like, I don't know, be taking care of the families or something like that. Yeah, totally.
Oh my gosh. Let's see. Jody says it's not equality, it's equity. Yes, Jody. It's flexibility to support the individual so all individuals can thrive. Beautifully stated, as always, Jody. Thank you for being here with us today. Jody, hit that like button out there. Appreciate y'all checking in. Rob saying we've seen a slight increase in the number of policies that strive to be more inclusive, but still a small amount. Yeah, Rob.
We agree.
He says a year ago, Air Inc. did a DE&I benchmark, and about 1/3 of companies had made, quote unquote, some modifications within their mobility program to align with their company's DE&I initiatives. 56% had not, and 60% anticipated 6%. They would be making changes in the next 1 to 3 years.
And also, we also need to look at what is it that they are aligning to their initiatives, because maybe it's just that we're going to try to get better statistics at the end of, like, so we did 100 moves and I want to see at least 50 for different varied ethnicities and races and 20% LGBTQIA+. And that's just sent in a survey after the relocation is done. And then we think that, yeah, it's cool, but maybe we've treated them all in the exact same way. We haven't asked them any questions, any relevant questions, or provided any relevant guidance for their circumstances. So we are doing something, but we are not doing enough, basically.
Yes.
And thanks for that survey. We'll check it out.
Yeah, check that survey out. Rob, always bringing the wicked smart commentary. Rob, appreciate you. Richard Majewski. Shame I missed this broadcast mostly. Sounds so interesting. And thank you, Scherezade and Ben, and look forward to the recording. Yes, Richard, I hope your dinner was delicious. Richard, thank you for getting with us. Hit that like button if you've enjoyed this commentary here. I have learned a lot already. Scherezade, do you want to play a game?
Yeah, let's play it.
Awesome. Let's do it. We are going to play a game we call overrated or underrated. I am going to give you a topic, and you are going to tell me if it's overrated or underrated. And then I am going to tell you if you are right or wrong.
Ooh, that's last part. Okay, let's go ahead. Almost 10 p.m. in the UK. Don't be harsh.
Stakes. There we go. There we go. All right. First one up. Avoiding criticism. Overrated or underrated?
Overrated.
Overrated. Why is that?
I think that criticism is good. I mean, as long as no one's shouting at you and they're just like being quite polite, because we need to understand what we're doing wrong. It's like the whole conversation on today was on these. We need to know what we're doing wrong. We need people to tell us, and we need to do something about it. So completely overrated.
I love it. I actually, so this is really funny. So I take criticism very harshly. I actually had an epiphany today that words of affirmation are my love language, but the opposite of that is really, really what I hate most, probably. Okay, it's really hard for me to hear.
They just need to say it in a nice way, right?
Yeah, maybe. But what
with
you know,
a nice end.
You know what I think about that though? About nice is that it depends a lot on who's saying it to you. It could be the same sentence read by 3 different people, but unless there's love, empathy, trust, and a track record there that you can rely on, and you have social capital with that person, you know, it just comes all, it hits different, you know? And so I think that that's the thing for me, you know, but this is you know what? But I've always at the same time tried to really lean into criticism. And I think it's one of the best things that can fuel you. And
I think you should welcome it. And if someone is not approaching it in the right way, you can also tell them, because they should learn to do that.
Yes. And something I will never criticize is fish and chips and a bottle of wine in the park. That does sound good, Richard. All right, number 2, having a standard process. Overrated or underrated?
Again, definitely overrated. That's what I don't want to see. I want us to stop just having a process and following blindly. We need to understand circumstances. We need to amend things, and not any preferential treatment to any group, as we've mentioned, but we need to be conscious of what we're doing here and the specific needs we have, and really be inclusive and grant equity, as Jody said.
Yes. I agree. You know, human beings aren't standard. Right? There's no standard human, right? There's so much variance there, right? So standard processes inevitably leave out everything that doesn't fit, you know, and I think that's where things get dangerous. So
the law, I have to say this as a lawyer, the law is a law, but we can still find ways, legal ways, without making anything bad, to make people happy and send them where they want to be, and find ways whilst we, in this case, fight for recognition.
Well said. Number 3, changing your environment. Overrated or underrated?
Well, I've moved I don't know how many times, and I've lived in 4 countries. So obviously, I'm going to say underrated. We need to move so much more, but we need to be in uncomfortable positions. But still learn of what we're doing right now. So if you want to be a specialist in something, you need to be very, very comfortable with what you're saying and really learn a lot about what you're talking about, especially if you want people to trust you, right? So it's important to stay for a bit as well.
I think changing environments is just one of the most inspirational things. I mean, even when I just take a flight somewhere and just like even going to the airport gets me going.
I saw how much fun you were having in Seville. Come on, Ben. Like, let's just not talk about that. I had to stay home. It was very sad.
Oh, it was amazing. It was epic. Oh my gosh. Yes, agreed. Next, openly talking about our diversity. Overrated, underrated?
Underrated. So we need to talk about that. And I also like, okay, so I'm a lesbian individual and a female, and I think that people feel comfortable like if they are diverse when I say those things. So I need to talk about that. I need to like let people know that I know what they've going through, what they're going through, what may happen, why I'm interested.
Yeah, I would agree.
And we need to do that orientation.
Yeah, it does. It gives people permission, right? It gives people who are
Yep.
who are going through, something themselves permission to talk about it. And I think, I just had a call with somebody yesterday, and she said to me, she said, "Ben, I don't always comment on your stuff. I don't even like it, but I really appreciate you saying what you're saying, and I appreciate you doing what you're doing." And it validated her to see someone saying the things that she didn't feel necessarily comfortable saying, And I think when we take our platform and our courage and we act on it, it sometimes can do so much for other people and inspiring them. So,
and this is why I love that you're doing this, Ben. It's really, really cool because we need to talk about this.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate you talking with me about it. We got another one, Tim. Achieving goals. This one, overrated or underrated?
Okay, so I would consider myself an overachiever. Like I really thrive on achieving goals, but I'm gonna contradict myself and say that this is overrated because sometimes we focus so much on determining and walking towards the goals that we forget that things may change, priorities may change, scenarios can be modified, and that we need to quickly adapt ourselves to be happy, to find all the goals and to do better things, I guess.
Yes. And if you're obsessed with achieving goals, you won't set goals you can't achieve. And if you don't set goals you can't achieve, it's hard to stretch yourself, in my opinion.
Or you will do it and then you will go nuts until you achieve them and then just ignore them and go for the next one. That's more my style.
This has been a lot of fun. Sherry, thank you so much for being here today. Thank everyone who got active in the comments. I learned a lot. I hope you did as well. Hit that like button. Jody is saying failure is a great lesson, though. Knowing how you failed can make you so much better. I 100% agree with you, Jody. Failure is the stepping stones to success is one of my favorite sayings. Sherry, do you have a final thought you want to leave us with today?
I would just encourage everyone to talk about this. I want to see more of these everywhere. And if anyone finds that there are miracle solutions or any other ideas that I haven't spoken about, I also want to know them. So please contact me and let's talk about this and let's make this change before I have to retire, basically, please. Still a few years.
Are you retiring soon, Sherry? You know something I don't know about finance that you're retiring soon? Okay.
No, I would love to, but no.
Yes,
still 30 years. We have time, guys.
Yes, we have time. So talk about it. This is great. Roland saying heavy topic, but needed to be addressed. Yes, Rob saying great show. Thank you. Thanks to everyone who got here in the comments. Hit that like button. I appreciate you all so much. Your likes, your comments are the only currency and price for the show. So thank you for being here. We wouldn't have a show without you, and we definitely wouldn't have a show without Sherry. Scherezade Maestre, EMEA immigration specialist. Thank you for being here today with us.